to introduce our speaker tonight, who is fairly familiar, coming from our own parish of St. Mark. But if you read the intro and bio here, she's full of surprises. She's got a lot of talents and a very responsible professional job that's, I think, very impressive. But more importantly, she is definitely a woman of faith who has lived her life, of course, here at St. Mark, but also traveled extensively and has great interest and knowledge of Father George Calciu, who has a tremendous presence in Europe and in Romania and all this in remembrance. So she's going to kind of talk to us tonight about her travels recently and how Father George kind of fit into all of that. So without taking any more time, I need you to use this and address the people. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Father. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I know it's the end of a long day. And this is going to be a little bit of a different style. Unlike the previous wonderful speakers that we had in here, I very seldom read from any script. So I am a visual learner. Most of us are visual learners. So what I do, I read ahead of time, of course, I prepare, but it's going to be more of a dialogue. Feel free to ask questions if you have any questions throughout the presentation. And first and foremost, let me give you a little bit of context in here, so that I know how much emphasis I place on Father Georgi specifically. How many of you actually know or have been to my talk? I think it was 2 years ago. The time is going by so fast. How many of you know about him, of him? Okay, very good. So what I'm going to do is to just give like a brief overview about Father Georgi, which is part of the presentation as well. There are some visuals. And this particular trip, the timing was providential, for lack of a better term. That's why we should never actually miss an opportunity when it comes around. You never know which doors those opportunities are going to open. So this was not a touristic trip in any shape or form. There were some areas that I had to actually attend to in the border of Ukraine as well as Moldova. Father Tanasi, that you probably have heard about, I know that there was some collections in here at St. Mark. He has an orphanage, right, in Romania. He's actually receiving, he has a total of 140 children, plus a bus full of elderly that was arriving as well. And you're going to see a couple of pictures too. I will be honest with you, I don't know how he does it. But one interesting fact is what I don't know that you are aware. He's one of Father Georgi's seeds. He was Father Georgi's student in the seminary. So good seed finding good soil. He's been with his mission for over 40 years. We're going to see some of the pictures too. And I might actually even ask Victor to stop the recording just to protect the children. There is a lot of sex trafficking happening even in the border. Children are disappearing. It's a very sad state of affairs. But we'll see. I can actually go through it very quickly, and I'll be happy to share that with you offline. But whatever we can do to help missions like this, and I invite you to actually, if you have an opportunity, the next time that I come, if you want to come along, I'm driving with him, and he is with 2 phones, unbelievable. And how did this trip came on and about? Last year, I don't know if you are aware, we actually celebrated 40 years since the original Everon icon started streaming myrrh. And Metropolitan Nicholas came from Georgia, the country of Georgia, to actually, celebrate that. And his mission is actually very related to canonization. The sort of unveiling of the new martyrs and confessors, contemporary martyrs and confessors, which is a very unique mission. I was actually flabbergasted because I haven't met anybody like this before. And like Father Georgi, he's pretty much a man of action, for lack of a better term. He doesn't waste any time. And most of the time when I meet somebody like this, I bring a little package. Some of you who came across know about that, with Father's movie, with Father's book, and his icon. And I bring the package to him and introduce myself. And the next day, he comes, right after liturgy, he comes straight at me. I was all the way in the back of the church, the place suitable for sinners like me. And he comes straight and he says, "Maria, this man is a saint." And he had read the book. He didn't have a chance to watch the whole movie, but he was very touched. And the two candidates, for lack of a better term, that are in his list right now are, Brother Jose Munoz, right, the guardian of the missing quotes, either an icon, and Father Seraphim Rose. Another connection in here that I would like to emphasize to you as we go through the presentation is the connection between Father Seraphim Rose and Father Georgi. Not too many people know that when the 40 sermons were smuggled away from Romania, when Father Georgi was taking for his second term and the worst term of imprisonment, about this time of the year, because he was delivering his 7 sermons to the youth during Lenten, if you recall from our last call, the sermons were smuggled outside of Romania and translated into 3 languages. And somehow Father Seraphim Rose got a hold of a copy of those sermons. So he was the one that actually very first spoke in America about, hey, that is this priest that is, being tortured in prison. Who is doing anything about it? So from that, it went to Voice of America. It went to Congress. That was former President Reagan had a movement for the persecuted Christians and persecuted people across nations. I wish that a program like this could be reactivated, right? And Father Georgi, after this event, went to the top of the list. Even though Father Georgi, endured 21 years of imprisonment under torture, he never complained about it. He said that everything that happened in his life was a gift from God. And what I like to state is that in America we actually got the perfected product, right? Because a lot of people focus a lot. They look into the suffering, and it's horrible. I cannot speak to Father's torture because I cannot even fathom to, what would be like, and I cannot even get through the pictures of, the book that is in here. If you would like to entertain it. It is cruel because it still happens, unfortunately. But the emphasis, to me, it's like a wounded shell, right? It has to go through that process in order to make that perfect pearl. He was being perfected, and when he came to the U.S., you could really get the benefit of what all of that suffering has done to him as a human being, as a priest. And he never measured any sacrifices to help anyone. In fact, Father Tanasi was telling me that when he was going to seminary, it was in 77, I believe, when Romania had one of the worst earthquakes at the time was, in the world. And Father Georgi, barehanded, was actually, trying to rescue the students from under the debris. And in here, he was terminal pancreatic cancer, driving food to the poor, performing liturgy, baptisms. I had to take over with his permission and blessing his schedule. And he asked me to stop his treatment so he would go to Romania and say goodbye to his people. You know, even though he was extremely thankful for exile, he told me even right before he passed away that exile was one of the worst prisons from his perspective, because he was away from the people and the land that he was willing to actually lay down his life for. Right. So and I sort of try. I know that the pain of abandonment is very deep. It cuts through one's soul. But what I told him is, I firmly believe that God want to open a much wider gate so many more people could benefit from what he has to offer, and he continues to offer. So that's just a brief, a very brief overview in here for some of you that don't know much about him. And as an outcome then of this meeting with Metropolitan Nicholas, going back to him, there was a conference that was taking place in Georgia about the Great Divides. And there were intellectuals, not only clergy. It was an invitation across, universities, etc., to sort of sit down and dialogue about the great divides that we are crossing. And as part of that conference, Metropolitan Nicholas extended an invitation to me to come and speak about Father Georgi, because for sure he crossed that divide, right? And his canonization process is now in process. Is a length process, very complex. I cannot speak to that because it's not my area of expertise. But I ask you to please pray for it. We definitely need more examples of courage and of faith like this amid us. And so that I go. It was very, very abrupt, and I had to prepare. I had to go through my own protocols to get excused from work. That's the type of work that I have requires that as well. I didn't even know if this was going to be possible or not. But on and all, that's what happened. And in the course of 12 days, which also coincided, which was right after the earthquake in Turkey. So I got some interesting facts that happened from there. I went on a unbelievable 12-day journey. When I say, on the right inside in here, all that you're gonna see here are real pictures. Some of them, they look like, from a book, but they are actually real pictures. You can see, from the Caucasus, you can see over there, regretfully, the pictures don't give you a good perspective, right, of the depth. This is, climbing the mountains to get into monasteries that are actually built in caves. Unbelievable. I have never, been in one before. And from there, Metropolitan Nicholas also flew to Romania, where we went to Petrovoda, where Father Georgi is buried, for a parastas. That was like, there was a great privilege. So, as I mentioned to you, really a man of honor. And what you see in the center is an icon. That is an interesting. I commissioned an icon. There is an interesting story behind this icon. It is very big. You're gonna see the size as well. And to leave to Georgia as a gift to Metropolitan Nicholas. And he received this icon in the day of the presentation of the Lord in the church of Saint Michael, which was one of the powerful archangels that Father Georgi said kept him alive in prison. In fact, he had a vision of Saint Michael. So you see how, how those coincidences happen. And the icon was like really cumbersome and big. You're going to see when I came out of the airplane, 3 people carrying it, and I was carrying it on my own. And they told me, oh, they are not going to let you bring this. This is, they said, hey, I'm willing to pay. I don't care. And I arrive at the airport with this, cumbersome thing. And the Turkish Airlines. So they, the lady looks at me and she says, what is this? And I explain to her, it's a Byzantine icon. And it's very delicate. And I, of course, had to put a picture of Father outside. And said, who is this? And I said, and I gave the little spiel about Father Georgi, right? At the elevator speech of Father Georgi. Well, he went to prison for 21 years, blah, blah, blah. And he helped everybody in America, inclusive of your people. And she was actually Muslim. She was, fully vested, which is true. I not only witnessed that, but I helped him helping them. To people who actually needed jobs, and anyone, atheists, when he was driving food to the poor, he was not driving food to the Orthodox people. He was driving food to anyone. Anyone who knocked at his door would get help. So to make a long story short, she says, okay, go. And didn't charge me anything for it. And I was like, okay. This huge thing, right? And when I get into the airplane, right before I get into the airplane, they stop me. Who told that you can come with that? You can't possibly come with that. She appears out of nowhere, and she says, this is a friend. Put this icon in first class. I am not kidding. So what I joke is, here is Father Georgi in solitary confinement in prison for 21 years under torture, exile, and now he's traveling first class for free, right? Can't go wrong with that. So the purpose of this visit was that, and I also had, I had a couple of places that I had a couple of people that I needed to speak with in terms of, documentation to augment the canonization package and and understand a little bit of what is happening in Romania as well as it relates to the canonization of the martyrs from prison. Many, if not most of the martyrs actually died nameless. Only now, with the advancement of DNA identification, they are trying to identify some of them. I walked on top of mass graves, one of which in Ayud, regretfully, the prison is still fully active. And a mass grave probably 5 blocks away from it, what used to be a mass grave. It is, it's a little bit disheartening, but there are, there is a list, that is sort of pending for canonization, etc. And to make a long story short, I just want to meet the people. There are 2 that went to prison with Father Georgi, Mr. Demostheni, who is 95 years old. So it was a good opportunity to sort of reconnect, and you're going to see some of the journey. So basically, I gave you a little bit of the context. And I would like to make a connection in here. When I say do not miss the opportunities when they come in front of you. When I went into the village, the Father Thanasis village that I mentioned before, he took me, the village has grown. He has over 440 people there now that he cares for. He does not allow anybody to go and adopt the orphans, by the way. He raises them. Some of them are doctors, engineers. And they come and they give back. It's a beautiful, beautiful model, absolutely beautiful. And he took me into one of the 5 churches that he built. And right up front, there was something really striking and called my attention right away because I haven't seen this icon very often. Look on the right inside. This is going to be your left, right? And see if you can make a connection with the lovely talk that we had last week. This was the icon that I said, who is this saint? So this was like 3 weeks ago. And you see, and I got busy, and Father Thanasi looks at me and said, you don't know Saint Nikolai? like if it was like if I had committed some type of crime, right? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. You are going to go and look for it. And I got busy, of course. My schedule was insane. You're going to see I got very little sleep. I was driving during the night, doing the visitations during the day. And then I come to the talk, and voila. Here is him. Hey, here is who I am, Rosana. It's like, you want to know about me. And it's not the first time that something like this happens. So, don't miss a window of opportunity. And it was also the first time that I saw the Holy Theotokos with wings. I found, I love iconography, so that was very interesting. And a couple of other connections with, Serbian saints as well. This was another coincidence that I was talking to another priest from a Serbian church, too. And they just showed up, and I said, I can't believe that. We were talking about this not too long ago. So and this is the back of Father Tanasi over there. The agenda, I'm not going to go look what a busy agenda we had, right? We haven't even got to the agenda. We already covered most of the background. But I would like to acknowledge a couple of people, because I don't know how much time we're going to have left in here. I don't want to keep you here all night. I have pictures that could keep you here all night, and I would be happy to share them with anyone. But I would like to acknowledge a few people. If you go upper corner, that is Metropolitan Nicholas in Petrovoda at Father Georgi's grave, when we came from Georgia after the conference to the Parastas. That's him and I at the Church of St. Michael with where Father Georgi's icon was received inside of a consecrated church for the very first time. Is a very giant step towards any canonization process. That's him here. Him with an icon of Brother Munoz, which I also brought with me, but that was it was commissioned by somebody else. And him with Father Seraphim Rose in the right corner. I would like to acknowledge, too, one of the saints that Father Georg had a huge influence in Father Georg's life, Valerio Givank. You probably heard about him, the saints from prison, right? Elder Justin, who actually passed away. He was the one who gave me the canon to put a package together, which took me 7 years to do. Elder Cleopa, who is also in the line in the list for canonization, will likely happen next year, early next year, based on what I heard. Mr. Demostene, who also went to prison, he's one of the two that went to Pitești with Father Georgi. Out of the 3 prisons, Pitești, Jilava, and Ayud, and he's still alive, 95 years old. We have Marcel, who was very, very, very close with Father too. They shared the prison cell as well. He passed away last year. And Micah Mina, Mother Mina, also went to prison, has an unbelievable story. We became very close. She passed away 2 years ago, too. And I got to go and visit her grave. Father Georgi's mother, who had a tremendous influence in his life and his upbringing, he was the 11th child. And she was, she was a very pious woman, and he attributes his faith, the strength of his faith, to her. You see, mothers, the role that you play in your children's life. And you probably heard about him, Father Roman Braga. He was at the monastery of Transfiguration in Pennsylvania. He also went to prison. He actually ended his life in here. In fact, the monastery of Transfiguration was funded by a former Romanian princess, right? Who the Romanians in here? Who is she? Who was the abbess? Very good, very good, very good. So you see a lot of the Romanian legacy, very strong roots. Now, paying, of course, Nasha Adriana, who is also buried, Father George's wife. Nasha is a godmother. She's my baptism godmother, too. I was baptized by a father, right, in Christmas Day. Maria actually was a name that, my baptism name, that gave him by him. So I would like to acknowledge this group, because they do, this is just like, a small representation of all of them. Also acknowledging Maria Cruz, she is a renowned iconographer. Just to give you an idea of the size of the icon. And this is actually gold. This is not painted yellow. It's actual gold, and she did a phenomenal job. Here are 3 people actually carrying the actual icon. That's how heavy and how big it was. And her husband, Valentin, the face was absolutely perfect. They did an outstanding job. They were actually sponsored by Father Georgi because of their unique skill as well. So let me give them the credit for this beautiful icon. And the theme, what was the theme and the outcome of the conference in Georgia? We can have a whole presentation just about that. It was amazing seeing even intellectuals coming together and really, really seeing the need, the need for spirituality, and what the absence of spirituality in many places, schools, workplace, etc., what it has done, dehumanizing us. We have plenty of examples in history about that. And of course, great divides were not foreign to Father Georgi. You can see the icon on the my very far right, your very far left. All of the concentration camps across Romania, and the diaconist actually painted, themes of what has happened in there. I don't want to focus too much on the paint because it is horrific. And this is actually encaustic. And we're going to talk a little bit about encaustic because Georgians are very good at encaustic painting. It's melted wax that you actually put into a hot surface. I had never seen that before. It was absolutely incredible. And this was also great divides in Georgia. You're going to see geographically where Georgia is located, and you're going to have a very good clue of what has happened in that. In fact, the cave monasteries that we're going to see here very shortly, there was one occasion that the monasticism was really prolific. And there was an invasion. I don't want to mention names because, those things happen throughout history, but there was an invasion and at that time, 6,000 monks were killed at the same time. So you see the great divides, and in here, you're gonna probably recognize some of the faces in here as we go through a couple of intermissions and curious points about Georgia, which I did not know. There are also some very deep connections between Georgia and Romania. I don't know, this is just a brief snapshot for you, so that you have, chronologically, you have an idea of what he went through. I spoke, but I'm going very fast, right? And let's hope that, this shell and this pearls continue to shine and to impact the lives like he has before. So let's look in here at the first part of the journey, my first 6 days. So it is going to look like we covered a lot of territory. It was really insane. You can see a couple of the stars in there just to give you an idea of the places that that I actually went to. It was driving and driving during the night and driving. Most of the pictures that you're going to see me, you said, you're going to see not huge bags, but one of the things that I would like to call out, anybody from Georgia here or related to someone in Georgia? Let me tell you, the hospitality, I've seen that with my Italian grandparents in the village, faraway villages. The hospitality is incredible. You can show up at a stranger's home in the middle of the night, and they will set up a banquet for you. I am not kidding. they actually give you a challenge. So every place you go, you eat. And you eat, and you eat. And they make sure that you eat. Just giving you, of course, the capital, the big red star, that's where the conference was held, right? Tbilisi. And it was, just on and about 11,000 miles. This is one way, just in that region, 6 days. And you see, I also had a connection in Istanbul. I actually got strained in that, even though the earthquake did not impact Istanbul directly. They redirected all of the workforce to help the rescue, because there were, the casualties were just growing and growing and growing and growing. And when I arrived there, the count was around 17,000, and it went up close to 20,000, right? So most of the flights got canceled. And I got to meet a lot of wonderful people, inclusive of refugees from Ukraine in the process as well. And a lot more people at the airport now know about Father Georgi. All right, so a little bit more about the geographical context for some of you that don't know. This is actually the picture, at the Capitol. I found it really interesting because it's a modern architecture, and it was actually designed, it's called the Bridge of Peace. It was designed by an Italian architect, and it's very modern, because when you go to Georgia, you're going to see things from the second, third, like church, second, third century and above. My first, when I landed in Georgia, after the lag in Istanbul, I went straight into the liturgy, to 4th century church, standing, unbelievable. So, just a couple of curious points. I don't know how many of you know that the Mother of God, actually, our Holy Theotokos, was assigned to go to Georgia. What our tradition says is that, after Jesus's passing and resurrection, of course, the apostles and the Mother of God, they actually were sitting down and looking at the regions and who was going to preach where. And Georgia was a territory that was assigned to the Mother of God. But she, decided not to go, and she assigned the Apostle Andrew to go to Georgia instead. And the Apostle Andrew not only came, but he came with the mantle of Elijah. And you're going to see one of the major cathedrals in Georgia that has the mantle of Elijah. I actually had a private tour in there in the middle of the night, as well as the robe of Christ that is buried in there. A beautiful story. It is actually considered the second holiest place on earth, as well. And the main, the main, and all of this happening, around what, 2nd, 3rd century, right? It's really a lot of history that I had no idea that it was so rich. So the orthodoxy and the Orthodox roots in Georgia are really deep. I was very impressed. Just like in Romania, almost every corner that you go has a church, too, and they live very peacefully as well, with the other communities now, at least now, right? This is a little bit more history. I'm not going to read bullet by bullet, but you can read that faster than I can. A couple of places where St. Andrew preached in different parts of Georgia. And that has been also documented that we also had St. Simon of Canaan in western Georgia, and St. Matthias, another apostle as well, was also buried in Georgia. So really, really a very early and rich tradition. I don't know if you like me, if you knew about it. I didn't. This is side of the cathedral that I was telling you in the very far left for you. It was close to midnight when, the Metropolitan Nicholas actually asked them to open the cathedral. So, and I walked around. It was a little bit of snow outside. It was like magic, unbelievable. Looking at the picture doesn't give you a very good notion of the size, the order of magnitude. And they're actually a little bit concerned with the structure. Let's hope that nothing happens. And this is actually, how many of you know of Saint Nina? The equal to the apostles, the enlightener of Georgia. She was actually from Cappadocia. We're going to see a little bit too. But she walked. Her parents actually became monastics, and she was raised by a nun, and the nun actually got killed. And she heard that the robe of Christ was somewhere in Georgia. She actually walked from Cappadocia. She wanna, come and be, close to that precious relic. And when she came, she actually converted even the king, the queen, who actually built the church as well, and preached Christianity to multitudes too. And this is actually a classic icon where you can see a pillar actually levitating. They were having a lot of problems with one of the pillars of the church, and that was a miracle that happened. The man could not move it and put it in place, but it was levitated and actually put into place. Saint Mina actually asked people to, and there they call her, not Mina, Saint Nina. They call her Nino over there. There are a couple of curious things too. They were talking, mama, 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 even during the conference. It's the only place in the world where they actually call father mama, and they call mama Dada. Yeah, it's like it's the opposite that we do, right? The Saint Nina from Cappadocia is considered the patron, even though the Mother of God is the guardian over there. Okay, now we're going to have a very quick intermission in here. It's a huge debate that is finally settled, and the Italians are in the middle of this. It almost got to the war, but it has been proven. The wine actually is originated in Georgia. And they have a very unique way of making wine. And be aware if you taste the Georgian wine. The fermentation process, they use everything in the skin, and it's actually done underground. There are huge clay pots. You can see here just the top. And they put a special top as well. It is a very unique way of wine making. They have this amber wine too, and if you actually move the glass, it's like really thick. It's not like any wine that you have tasted before. So if you have a chance, after maybe after fasting with Father's blessing, I can get some. I found the source as well. So the dispute has been settled. Over 8,000 years of tradition in the winemaking. It is Georgia. Now, another very curious fact, because I was also very curious about their writing. If you look at the Georgian writing, right below, towards the bottom, it is like swirling, right? It is actually this unique alphabet was also created after the vines. It's sort of resembling the vines. Yeah, so that's how embedded the grapes and the wine is in the culture, right? Very good. We have another intermission in here, another curious fact about Georgia. We already spoke a little bit about the encaustic work. about the hospitality. Those are renowned artists, and we just popped in the middle of the night in their homes. And actually you can see the table that they set for us. This is not anything that is prepared. And his specialty, in fact, he made that Christmas tree. He gave it to me. This is a typical Georgian Christmas tree. That's how they make it. Very simple, right? And that's a picture in here. Their house in itself is a work of art. It was actually built by their great-great-grandfather. So a lot of tradition. You can see the encaustic work. And, if you look on the bottom, let's see at the end who is going to be able to guess. One of the pictures in there, I think you're going to be able to guess. Too. And his wife is also an artist. Well, that is actually his son, who is a very well-known movie director too. So the whole family is like artistic, right? And his wife, she works a lot with fabrics, all the way in the, on the bottom too. This is a very large paint in the back of the wall. And in the very far left for you, I will call your attention to the walls. This is one of the monasteries of Metropolitan Nicholas. He has his house. This is the border with Turkey and Armenia, right? Border with Turkey and Armenia. All of the walls are encaustic iconography too. And in the center, you're going to see what Metropolitan Nicholas has is one of the two identical copies of the Shrine of Turin. How he did that, he has some connection with the Vatican, with the Italians, and he has even a piece of, a thread of the original shroud. And it was amazing because you can see, if you actually put the camera, you get the negative of the camera. And I have the pictures of that too. This is right next to the church where Father's icon is now in Georgia. Okay, like I mentioned to you before, you eat. And you eat and you eat. One of the dishes that you tried today with the beets is a classic Georgian recipe. They use a lot of nuts. As you can see, the vegetation in there is not, there is a lot of rock, right? Caucasus is rock, rock, rock. When you go to the Carpathians, you have a lot more vegetation, right? And, but they do have walnuts. It's very popular in there. So just about every dish has walnut. And one of the things that I became really fond of is my little angel who, helped me a lot because very few people speak English over there. The hospitality is incredible. Who cares about the language, right? And she was fluent in English. And if you look into into this very specific sweet, it doesn't have any sugar. What they do is they put a string with walnuts, just like when you make candle, and you dip it into the must is what they call when the fermentation process for the wine starts. They put a little bit of starch in it, and they just dip it multiple times. And the mothers used to make this for their husbands and for their sons when they went to war, because it sustains you for a very long time. And so it has the nuts inside, and the that grape juice solidified on the outside. You're gonna see a lot of the hospitality that you're seeing here, that was extended to us. And I don't know how many of you ever had a Metropolitan cooking for you, but it happened to me. So it's so Metropolitan Nicholas was there. He insisted he want to cook, breakfast for me. So I tried to taste a couple of different of his culinary skills as well. They have, a variety of dishes, most of them with nuts, very traditional bread as well, beans cooked in a clay pot too, and we can just go on and on and on. So I tried very poorly to make something for you just to honor their culture. Okay, we spoke a little bit about the caves, the cave monastery, the very first picture that you saw. There was climbing. This is actually a monk, and he's living in one of the cave monasteries on his own. He's actually digging this particular church inside of the rock by himself with very rudimentary tools. This was solid rock. So they get the architects to come in and measure everything. And the picture doesn't help a lot, but it's a very small hole. I think the diameter is like this, that you have to climb in order to arrive at the places of the cave. So here I am climbing, right? Yeah, it was a little bit interesting with a dress. You climbing those holes with a dress, right? I did not know what I was going to be up and against. Those are very famous, cave. These are the caves of Varzia. Now, when I told you when we got through the encaustica, and I told you to look at the pictures, who would you see in there? It is when, look at Gori, the very second paragraph in there. Gori is actually the birthplace of Stanley. Not too many people know that either, right? And these are the caves of Varzia. They are very, very, very famous. If you look, this was actually a city that was built by Queen Tamar. This was the 1100s. And it could accommodate over 50,000 people. Very intricate tunnels and cisterns, and self-sufficient, actually, by the way, mostly to hide from the war. If you looked into the geography, you saw what is surrounding Georgia, right? So no need to make any comments in there. So this was absolutely incredible. Father John, absolutely humble. You ask him, what do you need? Oh, just prayers. It's like very, very humble, and an incredible experience. This is a bridge to get into the mountains, actually. The bridge did not exist, and Metropolitan Nicholas insisted, he asked so many times for them to go and build a bridge. They didn't, so he did it himself. Got a couple of men. And then he said, we shamed them, and they came and built another bridge. And they used to do that. They used to go over there, crossing the river, actually, by foot. They would wait until the water went down before the bridge was built. Very good monastery of Saint Nino. That's another landmark. Absolutely breathtaking. These are the relics of Saint Nino. This is the abbess. Very, very, very beautiful region. And actually we had, I don't know, Father Mark, if you actually know the Bishop Herasim from Texas. Yeah, he went. He went because I don't know if you know, he was a spiritual child of Father Seraphim Rose. Yeah, so he gave a talk about Father Seraphim Rose, and I gave a talk about Father Georgius. So we met over there. And another tradition in Georgia, that goes with the wine, tossing. There are at least like 5, 6, 10, 15 times. Everybody, the more wine goes, the more we celebrate to commemorate everybody. The people who came, the people who didn't come, the people who were born, the people who died, just everybody. Yeah, and this is the bush where, what we called, where Saint Nino actually preached. It's a blackberry bush. It is, the area is still in there. And at the monastery, the King Miriam and Queen Nana are also buried over there. Queen Nana was converted by Saint Nina first, and then King Miriam after. There was a miracle that happened that is associated with that too. And then, of course, that sort of, I go back from that visit to Saint Nina Monastery. We had a final dinner, of course. Couldn't finish without having more food. And from dinner, I went to the hotel, from the hotel to the airport, like, straight. And Metropolitan Nicholas. And I then come from Georgia to Romania. And this is just to give you, if you haven't seen Romania, what it is. And you see the border with Ukraine as well. Just for you to get a little bit situated geographically. And the stars are the places that I went to during the remainder 5.5 days of the trip. So this was an additional 12,000 miles, and that as well. So most of it was driving, and you can see the trajectory. From Georgia to Romania, we went, across the Black Sea again. Then, from Bucharest, driving to Petrovoda, going to the Sihastra Monastery. The Sihastra Monastery has a lot of history associated with it too. It was burned to the ground by the Turks as well, rebuilt. That's where Father Cleopa is actually buried right now. A lot of history associated with it. One of the last elders is there, and I want to say hello to him. Then we went to the Sihastra, from the Sihastra Monastery on to Diaconist. They are the ones documenting the lives of the martyrs from prisons. The monastery was created by Elder Justine with that purpose alone, and I couldn't recognize it. It's been 14 years since I've been there with Father Georgi, and it has, tripled the size. It's absolutely beautiful. And from Diaconist, back to Bucharest, and then going to Father Tanasi, and back. So that was the journey. This is a little bit more about Father Georgi, but because you already know, and we sort of summarized, Father Georgi a little bit, what I'm going to do is let me just break from here and take you to how are we doing and with time, Father? 5 minutes? Okay. So what I'm going to give you is just a little bit of the pictures from some of the monasteries from Romania. And in fact, if you if you have any interest in going to Georgia or to any place in Romania, let me know, like one of those monasteries. Maybe we could even organize a pilgrimage someday over there. Let me select it. The hardest part of this for me was to actually select the pictures. Let me just I'm just going to pull, a couple of things very quickly. If you look into the location, it looks like a painting. It is actually a place. None of this was there when I went there 14 years ago. This was the only building that existed then, and a small chapel. This was also made by the diaconist. This is in the dorm. That's Father Georgian there again. This is all new. So this is the old chapel. So it is absolutely, and this is Micah Mina that you saw before, that I was hugging her, that passed away. So now I cannot hug her, I can only hug her cross. This is the abbess with me, too, over there. And then we leave Petrovod, we leave a diaconist. Let me show you a little bit of Iași. Iași, I actually had an audience with Metropolitan Teofan of Bukovina and Iași, that area. Iași is also part of UNESCO. This is the cathedral where the relics of Saint Paraskeva of the Balkans, very powerful, very well-known saint, is as well. This is the palace of the patriarchal palace. These are the relics of Saint Paraskeva. And I did, even though I didn't know everybody's name, I did put the parishioners of Saint Mark in the prayers, every place that I went. Rest assured that you were remembered. Those are, different icons. And I thought that they were having a service or an akatist of something like this. But no, it's constant people coming in the church. One curious aspect about the church in Romania, see, these are the streets. I don't know how many of you have been in Prague. It's considered the cultural center of Romania, Iași. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. But so this is a little bit of Iași for you. Let me show you Petrovoda, where Father Georgi is actually buried with Nasha Adriana. This is the monastery of Elder Justine. This is Micah Justina, who used to look after Father Justine. Curious fact about her, the day that she graduated from med school, she went to ask him for a blessing to look for a job. And Elder Justine looked at her and she said, I need to start a nun's monastery, and your job is going to be to run that monastery. The day she graduated from med school. She listened to him, and that is Micah Justina. She's the abbess of Petrovoda. This is me with Elisabetta. That's Metropolitan Nicholas with the clergy over there. This is me by Father Georgi's grave. This is Elder Justine's grave. And the evening, getting ready to drive again, because I had to be in Iași the next day. And that is Father Georgi and Elder Justine side by side. Okay, we are almost there. Just to give you a little bit of taste, one of the things that Sihastria, I spoke with you, just one. It's very way up in the mountains. This is one elder, two, I don't know if you know, Elder Yuan. Very well known, very cherished it as well. And this is when I was really, really, really tired. Oh gosh, I mean, can we still drive? I'm gonna, go relatively quick. This is Father Tanasi, his daughter, actually, his son-in-law, very, very renowned theologue, too. These are, classrooms. Those are actually orphans. Over there, we spent some very good time together. Those are a priest and his wife from Ukraine, and the building that Father Thanasis actually has reconfigured for them and for the elderly. This is the valley. Basically, you think about it as a small place. It is a place for 440 people. And he does not get any help from the government. Like I told you, the job that he does is absolutely phenomenal. He single-handed, runs this It's an enterprise. There is an amphitheater, there is a school, there is a doctor's office, 5 churches. It is, the kids are very well cared for. And he's really an engineer. Those are all churches that he built in the village. Yeah, so everyone, there is so much more that I can share, that I can actually tell you. There are so many wonderful seeds that Father Georgi has left behind. And when I place emphasis on Father Georgi is not in a idealization standpoint. Is that everybody has choices, right? Everybody, can make the right choice, even when it means that it will be a sacrificial choice. There was nothing supernatural about Father Georgi, nor on any of the saints. The only thing that distinguished them were the choices that they made, actually, if you think about it. If you go back to basics. Then they do obtain grace, and they do obtain supernatural powers to do what you can't believe. Oh, nobody can do that. This is not true. I can't believe it. I saw with my own eyes. Right before he passed away, there were many witnesses with me. We saw the uncreated light, the room dark, and we, like Father Leonid said, we didn't need the artificial light to read. The light was there. So we are surrounded by very good people. We see a lot of divides. Divides are not foreign to us. They've been true throughout history. And I think this is what if there is a way to finalize this, it's really a message of hope. Like Father Georgi, he never complained. He was very thankful for everything that happened in his life. And the message of hope is no matter how dark things get, because people always the end of the world. And I remember what Father used to say, okay, what if you knew that the end of the world was going to be tomorrow? Is it going to change anything that you do today? No, it shouldn't, right? We should do the right things because they are the right things to do. So why wait? Why worry about the end of the world? Just do what you can today. Do the best you can today. And struggle to get closer to what God expects of us. And no matter how dark things get around us, God always sends a light. Always sends, throughout history. Look at all of the icons, right? At church, all the beauty, in Georgia, in Romania. So now I know that St. Andrew actually went to Georgia first, then to Romania, right? We'll see where we end on that. But that's what we are called to do. We don't need to do anything, extraordinary. Just doing what we can where we are. We don't need to, become, this, let me go and isolate myself. It's not everybody's call. So anyhow, I thank you so much for your attention, for traveling with me a little bit. And maybe one day we can go on the journey together, right? Who knows? The Holy Land, Father. Thank you, everybody.